Sanctuary state.
Sanctuary state.
Sanctuary state.
There's a range of views on this. And I think a lot of people don't understand what sanctuary state means. So I really do want to define that in the question.
Okay.
Specifically, what I've been asking folks is, do you think California law enforcement should be allowed to work with ICE, specifically when it comes to convicted criminals who are undocumented? Convicted. Not someone in jail awaiting trial, but somebody who has been tried and convicted and is undocumented.
100%. And the reason is that is in everybody's interest that happens. Why do we have these scenes of confrontation and chaos and crime going on around immigration enforcement? Remember, this is federal law. You may not like the law, but it is the law. And I think generally speaking, it's a good idea to enforce the law. What is the point of passing laws if you don't enforce them? And so I think the situation where you've got federal agencies trying to enforce federal immigration law, and then you actively don't get the cooperation of local and state law enforcement, that's why you end up with ICE raids in communities.
Well,
because they say, look, if you helped us, and if we could cooperate and you just identify where the people are, or, hand them over in wherever it may be in the criminal justice system, then we wouldn't need to go looking in the community.
I think there's a big distinction, though, that's important for California voters to hear from you, though.
People who have not been convicted of a crime in California, or in the U.S. for that matter, are being arrested.
Yes.
And those are the ICE raids. Separate from that, we're talking about in prisons. So somebody who has been tried and convicted, they are in CDCR custody, they are set to be released because they have finished their sentence. Right now, state law does not allow, as I understand it, does not allow CDCR to hold that person until ICE can get there to pick them up.
Correct. That's SB 54. That was passed in 2017 when Jared Brown was governor. And I totally disagree with it. And again, there's an argument that it's unconstitutional. So a good friend of mine, a guy called Michael Gates, he filed a suit in federal court challenging the constitutionality of that law, SB 54. That's working its way through the courts. It's perfectly possible, but that by the time I'm governor, the sanctuary state law will have been overturned.
Being in prison, being convicted and in prison is one thing. That is a convicted criminal. But what if somebody who is undocumented is arrested for, I don't know, running a red light or being in the wrong place at the wrong time?
Yes.
Then do you believe that that local sheriff should hold that person and notify ICE?
That was the reason for the sanctuary state law, to stop that kind of thing happening. I've got to tell you, I'm a legal immigrant. We moved here in 2012, visa, green card, citizenship in 2021, 9 years. I believe in immigration. I believe in legal immigration. I don't believe in illegal. The clue is in the name. It's illegal. There are many, many opportunities for people to come to America the right way.
But to be fair,
and so
you were more affluent and had more resources than some of these folks who are walking across the border.
Well, they shouldn't be walking across the border. I mean, it's illegal. It's illegal.
Sanctuary state, do you think California law enforcement should be allowed to work with ICE specifically when it comes to convicted criminals who are undocumented?
100%. And I am suing the state to make sure that sanctuary state is minimum amended, if not done away with, because it is harming our immigrant communities, even the immigrant communities that are here illegally. Every single person that is here illegally, that in addition commits a crime and ends up in jail, should be deported. And the people who are here illegally that are here for a better life, they all agree with it.
That commits a crime and ends up in jail, or that is convicted,
in jail.
Convicted of a crime? Because jail is before your conviction.
If a judge has held them to answer, that's what the requirement is now, even with
So without due process.
SB 54. That's due process. That's due process.
I don't know that all voters would agree with that. So you're saying...
There is where I sit down with everybody involved and we come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Okay, but that is an important
now,
distinction, because I'm asking everybody the same question. And so there's a distinction.
It's a conviction. Now it's a conviction. The people that are deported now are convictions.
Okay. But you
absolutely
believe they can and shouldn't be deported prior to conviction once arrested?
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
I'm not against it, but I didn't say that. 100%, it has to be. You're convicted of a crime, you're out.
Do you think California law enforcement should be allowed to work with ICE, specifically when it comes to people who have been convicted of a felony?
So let's just start. Donald Trump is using ICE to terrorize our immigrant communities in multiple ways.
But this is not those folks, yes.
Having said that, it is really important that we have safe streets and safe communities. And for undocumented people who have committed serious or violent crimes, I think it's appropriate to interact and cooperate with ICE. But I don't think we can get away from my original statement that overall that's what ICE is being used for. But in this case, yes, I believe that for people who've committed serious or violent crimes, we should be cooperating with ICE.
Do you think California law enforcement should be allowed to work with ICE specifically when it comes to convicted criminals who are undocumented? Someone in CDCR custody, they have been tried and convicted.
I think our sanctuary city policy is appropriate the way it is. I think that only in the case of there's exceptions built into it for violent criminals. I think those exceptions are appropriate. But as a general matter, I am concerned that California law enforcement should be using its resources to make California safer, focusing on their law enforcement issues.
So if someone is convicted, you wouldn't support CDCR then working with
It depends on the conviction. We have in the sanctuary city law, as I said, we have exceptions for certain kinds of crimes already, and I support those.
Do you think California law enforcement should be allowed to work with ICE specifically when it comes to convicted criminals who are undocumented, convicted?
The law says what we can do, and if there are dangerous convicted criminals, yes, we work with federal law enforcement. We do not allow dangerous people to be on our streets. What we don't do, Julie, is we don't do federal immigration, detention, and apprehension for federal ICE authorities. We always call them already. ICE knows who we have.
So explain to our viewers, when we hear sanctuary state, what does that mean? What can't we do and what can we do? And would it change for you as
giving us a chance, because clearly some people would like to distort the sanctuary cities out, like we're giving sanctuary for violent, dangerous criminals. No. What it simply means, the federal government cannot compel the state of California. And I'm saying this to you not just because I'm pontificating. I'm saying it because as Attorney General, I went to court and won my case on this. The federal government cannot tell us in California to do federal immigration enforcement with them, for them. They can't. And the Constitution backs that up. And that's why I won. When I sued Donald Trump, I won.
Yes, serious and violent crime should come with the consequence of deportation. If you were undocumented and committing serious and violent crime, deportation is a perfectly reasonable outcome. At the same time, like many of these hot button issues, this is being turned into a political lightning rod for political benefit from, in many cases, the Republican Party. We see this with a number of issues. The reason we have the policies we have at the local level, where we don't ask our police officers to go around checking people's paperwork. I know you're not asking me that question, but I just want to be clear, because somehow this notion of sanctuary, which has been totally misconstrued, has led some people to think that we're a sanctuary for people committing crime. That is not the case. In San Jose, we are now the safest big city in the country. We're the only big city to have solved 100% of homicides nearly 4 years running. We take law enforcement very seriously. But the reason we're the safest big city is that we have built trust between our police officers and our community members. Our community members know, even if they're undocumented, they can report crime, they can provide evidence, they can serve as witnesses. Public safety is a community-wide effort. And if we're going to reduce violent and property crime, people have to be willing to participate, to share information, to call 911. So we've built that trust, and that's why we don't ask local law enforcement to play the role of immigration enforcement, just like we don't check people's tax returns and do the job of the IRS. But look, immigration is broken overall. Both parties have failed us. We need a compromise where we say, yes, we should have secure borders and know who comes in and out of the country. If you're here and you're undocumented, you're committing serious and violent crime, deportation is a perfectly legitimate consequence and is probably what should happen. And at the same time, and I know this from growing up in a little farming town, we've got over 12 million people who are here, many of whom have been here for literally 30, 40 years, raising children who are American citizens, who are working hard, contributing, part of the fabric of our community. I want to see, at a minimum, a path to legal status, and I think Democrats and Republicans need to stop making immigrants a political football and actually get together and secure the border and create a pathway to legal status. Maybe that's just a work permit, green card, but their kids are U.S. citizens.
Do you think specifically that CDCR should be able to hold them until ICE can come?
I think what the law says currently is that we do cooperate with violent and serious felons. And I do think we should cooperate with them. I've said for a long time, we have every right to secure our borders, and we ought to, 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 we ou deport, violent and serious felons. But the law already allows that.
Currently, the law says, yes, we can work with ICE for a convicted undocumented criminal. However, we cannot hold them. So once their sentence is done, if ICE can't get there immediately, we can't keep them in custody. We have to let them go. So they can't cooperate with ICE in that way.
I think with the recent $300 billion increase in ICE funds, that's not going to be a problem. That's not a real issue.
Do you think that CDCR or that the state should be allowed to hold them until ICE can come and take them?
I think that there are provisions within the law that says if a person is being sought by ICE and ICE has a judicial warrant for that person, then law enforcement, schools, public officials have a responsibility to work with that agency if there is a judicial warrant. But what we're seeing here are ICE agents who are massed showing up near schools, sometimes at a school. Are they really seeking dangerous criminals when they're showing up at an elementary school? I don't think so.
And so again, I'm talking specifically about convicted criminals.
Yeah.
Not kids at school, not families who are dropping their kids off at school, but somebody who's been convicted of a crime by a jury is in prison.
Yes.
And they are undocumented. My understanding is that the state of California, because we are a sanctuary state, our prison system is not allowed to hold them. So my question to you is, do you think if somebody is a convicted criminal, should the state in that sense be allowed to work with ICE and hold them?
I don't think that our agencies should be doing ICE's job. And I think we've established a tradition in California where our law enforcement agencies don't work with ICE as it relates to enforcement. And that's why we are the type of state that we are. Those individuals are serving their time. Let them serve their time. But if there's information that there is a dangerous individual, then yes, then law enforcement, public officials should be working with law enforcement to keep our communities safe.